When I first became a mom, I thought love would be the whole story. And at first it was. I held my brand new baby and I felt so lucky. But no one prepares you for the other part of motherhood, the part that doesn't look like the pictures. The fear, the overwhelm, the postpartum depression that sneaks in quietly. One day we were both sick and I remember crying and I didn't know why. Postpartum depression isn't just feeling a bit down after birth. It can feel like this. You love your baby, but you feel strangely numb. You show up for every feeding, but inside you feel like you're failing. Everyone says enjoy every moment. It goes so fast. And you silently wonder, why am I so sad? In the middle of what's supposed to be the happiest time of my life. If any of this feels familiar, you are not broken, you are not a bad parent, and you are definitely not alone. Today we're talking about postpartum depression, what it really looks like, why it happens, how to tell it apart from baby blues, and what you can actually do to get help and heal. Welcome back, beautiful souls and seekers of healing, truth, and transformation. If you are a new parent or if you love someone who just had a baby, this episode is for you. Before we begin, a gentle but important disclaimer. This video is for education and emotional support only. It is not a substitute for medical or mental health care. And if you are having thoughts of wanting to hurt yourself or hurting your baby, please reach out for immediate help. In the United States, you can call or text 988 to reach the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline anytime. If you're outside the U.S., please contact your local hotline, emergency services, or go to the nearest emergency department. You deserve help, you deserve support, and you do not have to carry this alone. Now let's gently step into today's topic, what postpartum depression actually is and what it isn't. What is postpartum depression? Postpartum simply means after birth. Postpartum depression, or PPD, is a real form of depression that can happen after having a baby. It may show up in the first weeks or slowly appear months later, sometimes even up to a year after birth. Studies suggest that around 10 to 20% of new parents worldwide experience postpartum depression. Some research shows 7 to 15% have symptoms in just the first 3 months. So if you're struggling, you are not alone. You are not weak. You are part of a very large group of parents whose brains and bodies are overwhelmed after a major life transition. And this is so important to remember. Postpartum depression is not a character flaw or a personal failure. It is a medical and psychological condition that deserves care and compassion, just like any other health issue. Baby blues versus postpartum depression. A lot of parents ask, is this just hormones or is it something more serious? So let's talk about the difference. Baby blues are very common. They happen in up to 70 to 80% of new parents. They usually start a few days after birth. You might feel tearful for no reason, overwhelmed or irritable, more emotionally sensitive. But here's the key. You also have moments where you feel okay or even joyful. Baby blues typically fade on their own within about 1 or 2 weeks. Think of baby blues as your brain saying, wow, that was a lot. I'm flooded, exhausted, and I need time to adjust. Postpartum depression. Postpartum depression is different from baby blues. It's usually more intense and it lasts longer. Some signs to look for. The symptoms last more than 2 weeks. They get in the way of daily life. Things like taking care of yourself, bonding with your baby, or even connecting with your partner or family. PPD is not just crying more. It affects how you think, how you feel, how you sleep, eat, and function. If you're still feeling deeply low, anxious, overwhelmed, or disconnected weeks or months after birth, that's more than baby blues. And the most important thing to know is this: you deserve help and support. You are not meant to face this alone. What postpartum depression feels like. Let's move beyond the clinical words for a moment and talk about what postpartum depression actually feels like. A lot of parents describe it as 1. A deep sadness or emptiness. You wake up already feeling heavy, like there's a cloud hanging over you. 2. Loss of interest. The things that used to bring you joy, music, shows, hobbies, feel dull or pointless. 3. Guilt and shame. I should be happy. Other moms can do this. What's wrong with me? There's exhaustion that isn't just from lack of sleep. Even if you somehow got rest, your body still feels like lead. And there's anxiety and racing thoughts, the constant worrying, replaying every tiny decision, or the fear, what if something happens to my baby? This is the emotional experience many parents never talk about. 6. Irritability or anger. Snapping at your partner or family, then feeling awful about it. 7. Feeling disconnected from your baby. You care in theory, but emotionally you might feel flat, numb, or far away. 8. Changes in sleep and appetite, sleeping too much or barely at all, eating constantly or having no appetite. 9. Hopelessness or scary thoughts. Thoughts like, it's always going to be like this, or maybe they'd be better off without me. Remember, having intrusive or disturbing thoughts does not make you a bad parent. It means your nervous system is overwhelmed and needs help. Why does this happen? Postpartum depression is not caused by weakness. It's rarely just one thing. It's usually a mix of biology, psychology, and life circumstances. Biologically, after birth, your hormones drop dramatically, especially estrogen and progesterone, and that can shift your brain chemistry. Add in sleep deprivation, physical recovery, and the stress of caring for a newborn, and your mind and body are already under pressure. Psychologically, there are certain risk factors that make it more likely. Things like a history of anxiety or depression, previous postpartum depression, childhood trauma, or growing up with high expectations. And sometimes old beliefs get triggered. I'm not allowed to fail. If I need help, I'm a burden. Those old wounds can make the transition even heavier and make it harder to ask for support. Social and environmental factors. Postpartum depression is also shaped by what's happening around you. Research shows that things like low social support, major life stress, financial strain, or relationship conflict can all increase the risk of postpartum depression. For example, studies show minority mothers are more likely to develop postpartum depression and more likely to face barriers to care. So if you're dealing with racism, poverty, immigration stress, single parenting, or not having family nearby, your emotional load is heavier from the start. None of this means you are weak. None of this is your fault. It's the environment you've been asked to survive in, often without the level of support that every parent deserves. When to worry and red flag signs. You never have to wait until things get unbearable to ask for help. Anytime you're unsure or struggling, it's okay to reach out. But there are a few red flag signs where you should get support right away. These include thoughts of wanting to die or not wanting to be here, thoughts of hurting yourself, thoughts, urges, or disturbing images about harming your baby, feeling like you can't trust your mind, hearing or seeing things other people don't, or believing things that don't match reality, like paranoia or intense confusion. If any of these are happening, that is not a failure. It's your brain and nervous system signaling that it needs more support, and you deserve to get that support immediately. These symptoms may suggest severe postpartum depression, or in more rare cases, postpartum psychosis, which is a psychiatric emergency. If any of this is happening, please get help right away. Call your doctor, midwife, or emergency services. Call or text 988 in the United States for crisis support. Or go straight to the nearest emergency room. And I want you to hear this clearly. You are not crazy. You are not broken. Your brain is in crisis and it deserves urgent care, just like any other medical emergency. Getting help. You don't have to do this alone. The good news is this: postpartum depression is highly treatable. With the right support, most parents recover and feel like themselves again. One of the most effective options is therapy. Therapies like CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, and IPT, interpersonal therapy, are well researched and proven to help with postpartum depression. A therapist can help you challenge that harsh inner critic, process the birth experience and the huge identity shift, build realistic expectations so you're not trying to be superhuman, learn coping skills for stress, mood, and communication. Therapy is not about fixing you. It's about giving you support, tools, and a safe place to talk about the things you are carrying. Medication is another option that can make a big difference, especially if symptoms are moderate to severe. Antidepressants, often SSRIs, are commonly used for postpartum depression. Your doctor or provider can walk you through the risks and benefits, help you decide what's right for you if you're breastfeeding, and monitor how you're responding. Taking medication is not a sign of weakness or failure. It's a tool, like glasses for your brain. And support doesn't stop there. Support groups and community can be incredibly powerful. That might look like local groups, online groups, peer mentors, or a faith or community group that truly understands mental health. When you hear another parent say, "I feel that way too," the shame starts to melt away. 4. Proactive care during pregnancy. If you're pregnant and know you're at higher risk, like having a history of depression, anxiety, trauma, or a previous episode, research actually recommends getting support before the baby arrives. Counseling during pregnancy can reduce the chances or the severity of postpartum depression later. You don't have to wait until things go wrong. You're allowed to build your support system ahead of time. For partners, family, and friends. If you love someone who might be going through postpartum depression, you are part of the healing circle. Here are a few things that make a real difference. Believe them. Don't minimize their pain with, "But the baby is healthy," or "You just need to be more positive." That can shut them down. Instead, ask, "How can I lighten the load?" Offer concrete help. "Can I hold the baby while you shower? Can I bring a meal? Can I come sit with you so you're not alone?" And stay aware of warning signs. If they talk about wanting to disappear, feeling hopeless, or believing the baby would be better off without them, encourage professional help and offer to go with them. Most importantly, remind them, this is treatable. This is not your fault. You deserve support. You are not alone. The deep lesson: you are not a bad parent. Postpartum depression tells cruel lies. It whispers, "You're not cut out for this. You're ruining your child. Everyone else is doing better than you." But here's the truth. The fact that you care enough to worry about being a good parent already says something about your heart. Struggling doesn't mean you don't love your baby. It means your nervous system is overwhelmed after one of the biggest physical and emotional changes a human can go through. You are allowed to be both, a loving, devoted parent and a person who needs help right now. One day, reaching out for support might become part of the story you tell your child. "When you were little, I went through a hard time. I didn't give up. I got help because you mattered to me, and so did I." That is not a story of failure. It's a story of courage. Thank you for spending this time with me. I'm Nori, and this is my AI twin sister, Nora, exploring postpartum depression, healing, and the truth about what it really means to be a good enough parent. If this video brought you clarity or comfort, please like, share, and subscribe. And tell us in the comments, are you a new parent or supporting one? What's one small act of support or self-kindness you can offer today? Remember, beautiful soul, needing help does not make you weak. It makes you human. You were never meant to do this alone. And you deserve just as much care and compassion as you give to the little ones in your arms.